Encapçalada el senyor Joan Laporta i Estruc.
I researched Joan Laporta's secret plan to revive Barça, and what I uncovered could permanently change the future of the club. Because while everyone else is hyper-focused on signings, departures, and the squad rebuild, Laporta has spent years orchestrating a far bigger masterstroke. A long-game strategy that quietly began with the painful exit of Lionel Messi, back when the institution was drowning in debt and looking down the barrel of financial ruin, unable to compete with Europe's elite. Back when the club was broke, directionless, and teetering on total collapse. In 2021, Barcelona was a financial wreckage, over $1 billion in losses, no soul, no identity, and no future. The project that once inspired the world had withered into a shell of its former self. The stands were drained of hope, fans saw no way out, and the footballing world was watching the tragic downfall of a titan. It looked like the absolute end of a glorious era. Fast forward to today. After reclaiming titles, locking down wonder kids like Lamine Yamal, Pedri, and Barça, betting everything on Hansi Flick, and restoring a winning culture, Joan Laporta is preparing to deliver the knockout blow. He isn't improvising, he's building, and what's coming next should send shockwaves through European football. Today, we expose that secret blueprint. And what we found changes absolutely everything. Few clubs on earth have tasted glory quite like Football Club Barcelona. This is the empire that dominated Europe behind Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and Guardiola. The institution that redefined modern football through its style, its ethos, and its iconic motto, "Mais que un club." Yet that history of greatness spiraled into a total nightmare. August 2020, Lisbon. Champions League quarter-finals, Barcelona 2. Bayern Munich, 8. It was the most humiliating defeat in the club's history. In 90 minutes, a decade of pride shattered. Behind that blowout sat far more than just a bad night. It was the climax of years of catastrophic management. President Josep Maria Bartomeu had dragged the institution to the brink through reckless multi-million-dollar signings, bloated wages, internal corruption, and a completely broken business model. By the time he vacated his seat, Barcelona owed over 1.3 billion euros. They were, quite literally, bankrupt. No cash, no direction, and worst of all, no Messi. The greatest player in history was forced to walk away simply because the club could no longer pay him. For the first time in memory, the football world stopped viewing Barca as a superpower and started treating them as a cautionary tale. It felt impossible that a club so massive, so wealthy, and so revered could hit rock bottom so fast. Yet right when all hope seemed lost, one man stepped into the wreckage, a man who had already saved the club once before, Joan Laporta. What he pulled off next defies all logic, because Laporta didn't just save Barca from extinction, he turned them back into one of the most electric teams on the planet. To truly understand who Joan Laporta was before the Bartomeu disaster, we have to turn back the clock, going back over 2 decades to the 15th of June, 2003. At that time, Barcelona was in shambles. On the pitch, they had spent years without a single trophy. Off it, they were financially crippled, and the fan base was deeply disillusioned. Amid that chaos, a charismatic young Catalan lawyer named Joan Laporta ran for the presidency with a crystal-clear promise: we are going to bring pride, joy, and greatness back to Barca. Laporta swept the election with a mix of swagger, charm, and corporate vision. From day one, he signaled that his tenure would break the mold. His very first major move was high risk, high reward. While the football world expected him to sign David Beckham, the global icon who ultimately landed at Real Madrid, Laporta and his board pivoted, securing a Brazilian playmaker with an iconic smile. Ronaldinho Gaucho. That single transfer altered the trajectory of the club and modern football. Ronaldinho didn't just bring goals, he brought flair, magic, and an infectious joy that swept through the entire Camp Nou. Every dribble, every smile, and every celebration reminded the fans why they fell in love with Barca in the first place. Laporta paired him with an attack-minded manager, Frank Rijkaard, kicking off a footballing revolution. Backed by brilliant additions like Deco, Samuel Eto'o, Edmilson, Juli, Belletti, and Larsson, Barca transformed back into a feared power. The Camp Nou roared again, football became an art form, and Barca returned to winning ways. In the 2004-2005 campaign, the club lifted La Liga, their first major silverware in 6 years. While Barca was reclaiming its seat at the top table, something even bigger was brewing behind closed doors. In the academy, a 17-year-old Argentine kid was turning heads. His name was Lionel Messi. Laporta watched his Camp Nou debut and instantly knew this kid was destined to define an era. And he did. Messi made his official first-team debut in 2004, and within months, he became the crown jewel of Laporta's project. Alongside Ronaldinho and Eto'o, they formed one of the most lethal attacking trios the game had ever seen. The dream peaked during the 2005-2006 season when Laporta's Barcelona captured the Champions League in Paris against Arsenal. Ronaldinho, Deco, Eto'o, Puyol, Valdés, Marquez, Xavi, Iniesta. Names etched into club lore forever. It was Barca's second European Cup, but the cornerstone of a new dynasty. The club wasn't just winning, it was captivating hearts. Mekong Club was no longer just a tagline, it was a lived philosophy on and off the pitch. Laporta had restored Barca to the global elite. Financially, the club was thriving, globalized, and attractive to top talent. Heavyweights like Thierry Henry, Dani Alves, Abidal, Yaya Touré, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic flocked to Catalonia. Barca had the funds, the prestige, and a clear tactical blueprint. Every transfer window, the club moved with ambition and foresight. Meanwhile, Real Madrid was building their famous Galacticos era featuring Zidane, Ronaldo, Beckham, and Figo. But Laporta's Barca faced them without fear, often running them off the pitch. Historical rival blowouts became the norm, fans felt invincible, and Laporta had constructed an empire. In 2008, Laporta made a move many tagged as reckless. He handed the manager's seat to Pep Guardiola, a tactical novice with zero top-flight management experience. "I trust someone who understands this club better than anyone," Laporta declared. The payoff was the most dominant era in the history of world football. In 2009, Barca accomplished the unthinkable, winning all 6 available trophies: La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Champions League, the Spanish Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and the FIFA Club World Cup. The sextuple was a historic feat, a masterclass in tactical perfection powered by the synergy between Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and Guardiola's tactical genius. Laporta's Barca didn't just control matches, they controlled time, space, and the narrative. In 2010, Laporta's tenure came to an end. His cycle was complete, leaving behind a monumental legacy. He had transformed a broken club into a benchmark institution, steering them out of the dark ages and straight into footballing immortality. Joan Laporta had reshaped Football Club Barcelona forever. And just as he did in 2003, Joan Laporta stood up to face the impossible once more. Only this time, the challenge was even bigger, saving Barca from its own destruction. March 2021. In the middle of total chaos, Barcelona's club members voted to look to their past to save their future, re-electing Joan Laporta. He was the man who had restored joy to the Camp Nou 2 decades earlier. The president who took a chance on a young Pep Guardiola and a teenage kid named Lionel Messi. But the club he inherited looked nothing like the institution he left in 2010. The books were a total disaster. Barca was carrying over €1.35 billion in debt, having burned through nearly €500 million in losses the previous season alone. They owed rival clubs millions for players who weren't even wearing the shirt anymore. On top of that, the wage bill accounted for a staggering 103% of total club revenue, well above La Liga's 70% cap. In plain terms, every euro coming in was already spent. Laporta inherited a club that couldn't sign players, couldn't pay its bills, and had lost all credibility on the global stage. The hardest blow hit shortly after, the harsh reality that re-signing Messi was mathematically impossible. Despite pulling every lever, La Liga's strict financial fair play rules made a new contract impossible. On the 8th of August, 2021, Lionel Messi broke down in tears as he said goodbye to the club of his life. Barça didn't just lose its best player, it lost its soul, its icon, and its beating heart. Yet Laporta understood something very few grasped at the time. To save Barcelona, he had to sacrifice what hurt the most and rebuild from the ground up. With Messi gone and a gutted squad, Laporta knew he couldn't just play for survival. He had to go all in. The club was barred from signing or registering new players and was drowning under hundreds of millions in debt. The crisis was so severe that only 3 options remained: sell off their top assets and accept mediocrity, join the controversial European Super League and sell their soul, or do the unthinkable, privatize the club, stripping away the fans' ownership forever. Laporta refused to surrender. Instead, he drew up a high-stakes financial gamble that critics labeled pure insanity, the famous economic levers. These were short-term asset sales designed to generate immediate liquid cash, even if it meant mortgaging pieces of the club's future revenue. Put simply, sell off a percentage of future income over the next 25 years just to stay solvent today. The first lever involved selling a 25% stake in the club's La Liga TV rights for the next 25 years, bringing in roughly €530 million. The second lever saw 49% of Barça Studios. The club's media hub sold off for another €200 million. All told, Laporta orchestrated an immediate cash injection of over €700 million. It was a desperate move, but a brilliant one, giving Barça room to breathe for the first time in years. With cash back in the vault, the club cleared urgent debts, restructured loans with major banks, and achieved the primary objective, becoming competitive again. The football world was stunned. How can a nearly bankrupt club sign players? Rivals asked. But Laporta's philosophy was simple. To generate revenue, you have to win first. That set the stage for the summer of 2022 and a transfer window no one saw coming. Barcelona, a club buried in debt, went out and landed Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, Jules Koundé, and a slate of world-class talent. While critics threw stones, Laporta smiled. He knew this wasn't reckless spending, it was an investment to reignite the Barça brand. If the team won, the revenue would multiply. If they failed, the club would be doomed. It was an all-or-nothing poker play that would define the club's destiny. Having taken the biggest financial gamble in the history of the institution, the next step was just as daunting: winning back on the pitch. But with a squad stripped of Messi, lacking experience, and carrying the weight of the footballing world on its shoulders, who could lead this new era? The answer came in the form of an iconic return: Xavi Hernandez. The very maestro who had dictated midfield play during Barca's golden era was returning home not as a playmaker, but as manager. His mission was clear: restore the Barca DNA. In November 2021, Xavi took the helm. He stepped in with practically no transfer budget, a fractured dressing room, and a squad where veterans had to take massive pay cuts just to register new teammates. Gerard Piqué, for instance, waived a massive portion of his salary simply so the club could register incoming transfers. Slowly but surely, the culture shifted. Strategic reinforcements arrived in the winter market, and while Barça was still a step behind Europe's absolute elite, the identity returned: high pressing, possession football, intensity, and belief. But the true renaissance didn't come from marquee transfers, it emerged from within La Masia. Xavi put his faith in a fresh wave of young gems: Gavi, Alejandro Balde, and Pedri, who, while not an academy graduate, played like he was raised in La Masia. And down the road came a sensational talent named Lamine Yamal. Through them, Barca sparked hope again. The veterans provided the composure, while the youth injected hunger, pace, and fierce pride in wearing the badge. The 2022-2023 campaign was the ultimate trial. Defying all odds, Barcelona marched to the La Liga title. Just 12 months after teetering on extinction, the club was crowned champions of Spain. Their defense set the standard across Europe, conceding just 20 goals all season, while Marc-Andre ter Stegen racked up a record equaling 26 clean sheets. Lewandowski signed with funds rivals claimed the club didn't have finished as the league's top scorer. Most importantly, the belief was fully back. Barça, the very same club written off a year prior, was lifting silverware again. They had navigated financial ruin, survived the departure of Messi, and silenced global skepticism. It was built on a unique foundation: youth, identity, and relentless faith. Yet while the squad celebrated on the pitch, Laporta knew the battle was far from over because the toughest tests were still ahead. Barcelona was back on top, La Liga champions, pride restored, and La Masia producing world-class talent once more. But as is always the case at this club, calm never lasts long. Behind the trophy celebrations, the underlying financial issues hadn't vanished. Without the famous levers, Barca would have posted over €200 million in losses that very same season. Revenue streams weren't keeping pace, expenses remained high, and La Liga's financial restrictions continued to tighten the screws. Then came another emotional blow: the departures of Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba, two club legends who waived substantial deferred wages to help balance the books. Their exits freed up vital space on the wage bill, but left a void in leadership that proved hard to fill. Without those veteran leaders, the dressing room lost key voices during crucial moments. The 2023-2024 campaign opened with glaring inconsistencies. The team lacked balance, the defensive solidity evaporated, and the young core, as talented as they were, couldn't shoulder the burden alone. Xavi, worn down by relentless media pressure and budget constraints, began airing his frustration publicly, admitting, "Managing Barca is almost impossible." He wasn't exaggerating. Incoming transfers were minimal, injuries stacked up, and their main rivals, particularly Real Madrid, looked unstoppable. Ousmane Dembele's abrupt exit to PSG for a mere €50 million hit squad morale hard. Xavi viewed him as a cornerstone player, but the club desperately needed the cash injection to stay afloat. Operating on a shoestring budget, Laporta tried to keep the squad competitive through loan deals and free transfers, but the drop in overall squad quality was evident. The performance on the pitch mirrored the struggles: a painful loss in the Super Cup, an early exit from the Copa del Rey, and another heartbreak in the Champions League. Barca ended the season empty-handed. And while the young talents continued to shine, most notably Lamine Yamal and Pau Cubarsí, a dark cloud of disappointment hung over the club. Xavi summed up the reality bluntly: the situation makes it extremely difficult to compete. He had restored the club's identity, but he could no longer fight the uphill battle against a financial system that offered no relief. Tensions between Xavi and Laporta became unavoidable. Xavi publicly called for major signings to compete in Europe, while Laporta maintained there was simply no money in the bank. Eventually, the working relationship fractured beyond repair. Laporta made a choice that sent shockwaves through the fan base once again, sacking Xavi Hernandez. It was a dramatic move, the club legend ousted by the very president who brought him back to lead the rebuild. Critics called it a betrayal, supporters called it necessary. In reality, Laporta didn't act on emotion, he executed a calculated move because he had another plan in motion. One nobody anticipated, and one that would pivot the club's direction once again. That plan had a name: Hansi Flick. The German tactician who had once handed Barca that devastating 8-2 defeat was now tasked with rebuilding the club from the inside out. He didn't arrive promising star signings. He brought a clear philosophy. We don't need to spend more, we need to play better. Working with a capped budget, no marquee spending, and a squad loaded with teenagers, Flick completely transformed the team's mindset. On the training pitch, he reintroduced an element Barca had lost: relentless physical intensity. His blueprint was razor sharp: high-tempo possession, aggressive counter-pressing, rapid vertical transitions, and clinical finishing. There were no protected divas. Everyone worked for the system. The impact was immediate. Despite long-term injuries to key figures like Ter Stegen and Christensen, Barca began playing the most dynamic, aggressive and captivating football in Europe. This was a new look. Barca, German efficiency infused with Catalan soul. The gems of La Masia became the backbone of the project. Barça, playing with the composure of a seasoned veteran at just 17. Pedri and Frenkie de Jong dictating tempo through the lines, and up front, an attacking trio few expected to work: Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal. Critics claimed they couldn't coexist, but under Flick, they turned into the most feared front line in Europe. Their pace, 1v1 threat, and chemistry blew teams away. Rafinha reached career-best form, Yamal shattered records as the youngest star to dominate at the highest level, and a 36-year-old Lewandowski finished chances like an elite target man. It was total football. Week after week, Barca dismantled opposition defenses with an energy reminiscent of Guardiola's golden era, backed by the intense pressing of a Klopp team. They poured in 145 goals across the campaign, establishing the most potent attack on the continent. The Clásicos against Real Madrid were dominant performances: 4 consecutive victories, 16 goals scored, and 3 trophies swept right past their eternal rivals, lifting the Spanish Super Cup, the Copa del Rey, and La Liga. Barca, a club that sat on the brink of financial collapse just 3 years earlier, was now ruling Spanish football with high-energy youth, flair, and fearless play. Laporta's vision had delivered. And while they bowed out in the Champions League semi-finals against Inter Milan, falling just short of European glory, the statement was made: Barca was officially back. Not as a club buying success, but as an empire built on heart, academy talent, and unwavering identity. Joan Laporta had saved Barcelona without privatizing the club or sacrificing its soul, and Hansi Flick had re-established them at the absolute pinnacle. Yet, heading into the 2025-2026 campaign, a new challenge surfaced: the presidential elections. Joan Laporta secured a landslide victory over challenger Victor Font, earning a fresh mandate to lead the club. His mandate was clear: lock in the financial recovery and complete the push for European dominance. That season proved the resurgence was no fluke. Barcelona reasserted their domestic supremacy by capturing the double-winning La Liga and the Spanish Super Cup once again, extending their dominance over a searching Real Madrid side, currently weathering the same turmoil Barca once endured. Yet one ultimate objective remains: the Champions League, a trophy that has eluded the Camp Nou for 12 long years. Despite a tough knockout exit against Atletico Madrid in the last edition, Barcelona enters this new campaign ready to contend for every single trophy on the table. This is where the long-term blueprint comes full circle. The economic levers served their purpose during the emergency phase, but the ultimate goal was always long-term sustainability. Slashing overhead, trimming the wage bill, restructuring deals, and developing La Masia talent allowed the club to finally return to La Liga's one-to-one financial rule. With complete financial flexibility restored, Deco's work in the sporting director role has become pivotal. The mission isn't to spend recklessly like the Bartomeu era, but to engineer a sustainable dynasty built on 3 pillars: La Masia, targeted high-impact signings, and financial stability. That strategy explains the club's recent transfer moves. Necessary high-value departures such as Ronald Araujo moving to Liverpool and Ferran Torres joining Paris Saint-Germain provided the capital required to secure top-tier talent like Anthony Gordon and Karim Adeyemi, giving the squad elite depth to compete across all competitions. Barca survived the financial crisis, turned the page after Messi's painful exit, and rebuilt the foundation of a global power. The final piece of the puzzle is being played right now. As the 2026-2027 season kicks off, Joan Laporta and Hansi Flick have assembled a formidable squad with one singular goal: conquer Europe and bring the UEFA Champions League trophy back home. If you love the history of Barcelona as much as we do, drop a like on the video, subscribe to Barça Cracks, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Because giants may fall, but Barça always gets back up. Visca el Barça, we visca Catalunya. See you in the next one, legends.